Welcome to a new episode of World of Words on my channel, Die Kulturerbe-Archivarin. Today we explore a word that has accompanied humanity for thousands of years. A word you can hold between two fingers, and yet it connects entire worlds. Today's word is thread. A small, quiet thing that holds fabric together, marks paths, carries stories. Something we rarely notice consciously, and yet it is everywhere. In our language, in our hands, in our lives. And as the small word, thread, echoes softly within you, a space opens, inviting us to come closer to its sound, its origins, its inner movement. Chapter 2. The word, origin, sound, meaning. Thread. A word that begins so softly you almost miss it. A whisper of th. A slight opening, and then the gentle ed. As if something were being drawn out, carried forward. Its roots lie in Old English thread, relating to spinning, twisting, binding. All actions done with hands, with closeness, with patience. A thread is something you hold, something you guide, something that connects. It is a material, but also a direction, a line, a small promise. A thread is always more than it seems. It is what forms between 2 points, 2 hands, 2 people, 2 moments. And perhaps that is the deepest meaning. A thread shows that connection is possible, even when it appears thin. To understand a word fully, it helps to look at the images people have woven into it over centuries. Idioms are such small time capsules. Chapter 3. Idioms, small thread wisdoms. Idioms are like small fossils of language, tiny vessels carrying centuries of human experience. And when it comes to thread, English holds a handful of images that reveal how deeply this word is woven into our inner world. Let's wander through them, slowly, as if following a thread without our fingertips. To lose the thread. This expression comes from weaving. When the weaver lost the thread, the pattern broke. The rhythm paused. The line disappeared for a moment. Today it means something very human. A thought that slips away. A conversation falters. A direction dissolves. But just like in weaving, it is never a catastrophe. You simply find the thread again. You continue. A lost thread is not an ending, only a breath. The thread of a story. In English, stories have threads. A narrative thread. A line that guides the listener through twists, pauses, and quiet turns. It is the invisible structure that holds meaning together, the soft spine of a tale. Hanging by a thread. A moment of fragility, a situation held by the thinnest support, and yet threads can be astonishingly strong. This idiom reminds us that even delicate connections can carry more than we expect. Strength does not always look like strength. To spin a yarn. Once it meant exactly what it says, to spin fibers into thread. Later it became a way of describing long, winding stories, rich textured, full of imagination. Not lies, not tricks, just stories that wander, stories that weave. A thread becomes a tale. The thread of life. In Greek mythology, the three Fates, Cloto, Lachesis, Atropos, spun, measured, and cut the thread of each human life. A line unfolding day by day, moment by moment. A reminder that life is woven, not random. Shaped, not accidental. These idioms show us that a thread is never just a thread. It is a way of seeing, a way of understanding how things hold together. Chapter 4: The Inner Space. What a thread touches in us. A thread is not only an object, it is an inner image. A thread can hold you when you feel lost. It can guide you when you don't know where to go. It can connect you when you feel separate. Sometimes it is taught a goal, a focus, a clear line. Sometimes it is loose, a breath, a pause, a moment of freedom. A thread can remind you of where you come from, of people who shaped you, of paths you have walked. And it can lead you forward into possibilities you cannot see. A thread is a quiet companion. It does not pull, it does not push. It simply says, this way, in your own time. Chapter 5: The Poetic Scene. A thread on your table. Imagine you are sitting at a table. Before you lies a single thread. Thin, light, almost unremarkable. But when you look closely, you see tiny irregularities, small thickenings, traces of its making. You pick it up. It feels warm, as if it remembers something. Perhaps it came from an old garment, perhaps from a woven cloth, perhaps from something long forgotten. You pull gently. The thread responds. It aligns. It stretches. It points. You follow it with your eyes. It leads across the table, over the edge, into a space you cannot see. A thread is always a beginning, one that reveals itself only when you take it in your hand. And like every thread carries a line, it also carries a story. Across cultures, threads appear in countless small scenes. Chapter 6: Cultural Miniatures. Thread Stories. Across cultures and centuries, threads appear in small vivid scenes. moments where hands, memory, and meaning come together quietly. Let's step into a few of them, as if opening old doors into rooms where threads once lived. The weaver's thread. In old weaving rooms, the air hummed with rhythm. Wood creaked softly, hands moved with knowledge older than the woman who carried it. When a thread snapped, the weaver paused. She breathed. She tied it anew. A fabric is not born from force, but from patience, repetition, trust. The plumb line. In medieval building lodges, a simple weight on a thread was the quiet judge of truth. Builders would lower slowly, watching the thread settle, finding stillness, finding the line. They said, the thread knows what is straight. A thread that revealed the invisible order of the world. The sailor's thread. On old ships, threads became ropes, nets, lifelines. Salt in the air, wind in the sails, hands working quickly. A good knot could save a life. A weak thread could lose a sail. A thread was never just material, it was trust, woven into survival. The seamstress thread. At night, by lamplight, women stitched quietly. The room was still, except for the soft glide of the needle and the gentle pull of a thread. The thread joined fabric, but also stories, weddings, departures, new beginnings. A garment was never just a garment. It was a woven life. The thread of myth. In ancient stories, threads guide, protect, reveal. Ariadne's thread, leading Theseus out of a labyrinth. The fates holding the thread of life. Threads marking paths through darkness and back into light. A thread is always a way, inward or outward, toward danger or toward home. These small scenes remind us that thread is not merely a tool. It is a companion of human history, a witness to our making, our mending, our becoming. Spinning as a cultural technique. Spinning was once essential, a craft, a livelihood, an art. Women sat together telling stories, singing, sharing life. A thread was born not only from wool, but from closeness. Spinning requires rhythm, attention, devotion. A thread is not sudden, it is continuity. Chapter 8. The linguistic meaning, losing the thread. When we say, I lost the thread, we do not mean the thread itself, but the line of meaning. A thought is like a thread. It has direction, tension, inner logic. If we lose it, we lose only the connection, not ourselves. And like a real thread, we can always pick it up again. Chapter 9. Two poems. Two kinds of threads. Poetry often reveals what prose can only circle around. Threads appear in English verse as symbols of guidance, of inner truth, of the quiet lines that lead us through our own labyrinths. Let us step into two such images, slowly, as if following a thread with our fingertips. William Blake, The Golden Thread. I give you the end of a golden string, only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. Blake's golden thread is not merely a strand of light. It is an invitation, a quiet assurance that if you take hold of something small, something delicate, and follow it with patience, it will lead you somewhere meaningful. In Blake's vision, the thread is a guide through confusion, through longing, through the inner maze of searching. It does not demand, it does not rush. It simply waits for you to pick it up. And once you do, it becomes a path, a way inward, a way upward, a way toward the place where your deepest truth resides. Blake's wider work opens this idea even further. For everything that lives in holy, life delights in life. And later, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For Blake, the golden thread is the beginning of clarity, a small shining line that leads from the ordinary into the infinite. A thread that guides. Where Blake's thread guides, the next thread heals. Quietly, patiently, stitch by stitch. Traditional English rhyme, needles and thread. Needles and thread, needles and thread, sewing the seams where stories are spread. Stitch after stitch, the fabric grows tight, holding the day and the hush of the night. Needles and thread, gentle and slow, mending the places where memories go. Stitch after stitch, the pattern is clear. What once was torn is now held near. Needles and thread, steady and true, binding the old to the hope of the new. Stitch after stitch, the cloth comes alive. A quiet reminder we meant to survive. This old rhyme carries the rhythm of hands at work, steady, careful, mending what was frayed. Here the thread is not a guide, but a healer. It draws edges together, closes small wounds in cloth, and sometimes in people. It reminds us that repair is a quiet art, that strength often returns not through force, but through gentle repetition. One stitch, then another, then another. A thread becomes a bridge between what was torn and what can be whole again. Together these poems show two faces of the thread, one that leads and one that mends, one that opens a path and one that restores what time has worn thin. Both are needed, both belong to us. Chapter 10. The Therapeutic Meaning. A thread is one of humanity's oldest inner images. It holds without binding. It connects without constraining. It guides without pulling. Therapeutically, a thread symbolizes continuity, what remains even when much changes. A thread can be an inner anchor, not rigid, but gentle. A reminder that we have a story, a beginning, a path. Sometimes the thread is clear, sometimes faint, sometimes knotted, sometimes loose. All of it belongs. A thread helps us see our own unfolding, how we grow, shift, reweave ourselves day by day. It connects us to people, places, memories, meaning. Perhaps this is its deepest power. A thread reminds us that we are part of a larger weave, held, guided, connected. Chapter 11. Meditation. A thread in your hand. If you like, find a posture that supports you gently. Feel the ground beneath you, steady and quiet. Feel your breath moving in its own rhythm. Feel the space around you opening just a little. Imagine now that you are holding a thread in your hand. Light, warm, familiar. A small line of presence resting between your fingers. With each inhale, the thread becomes clearer, as if it were walking with you. With each exhale, your body softens, making room for stillness. You sense its direction, a quiet pull, not demanding, not urgent, just a gentle suggestion of where ease might be found. You sense its tension, not tight, not loose, simply alive. Perhaps a thought appears. You can place it on the thread, as one might place a bead on a string. Let it rest there. Let the thread hold it without judging, without pulling you away. Take a step in your mind. The thread moves with you. Take another, still with you, steady, unbroken. If you wish, bring the thread closer to your heart. Let it settle there, as if it were finding its natural place. Feel how it rests, not as a weight, but as a quiet companion. Breathe in and out. The thread remains. It does not disappear when you look away. It does not loosen when you move. It simply stays with you. A soft line of continuity in the background of your day. Perhaps you sense a little more spaciousness now. Perhaps a little more warmth. Perhaps simply a moment of being here. Whatever you feel is enough. When you are ready, let your attention widen again to the room, to the sounds around you, to the gentle return of your everyday world. The thread stays with you, quiet, warm, unobtrusive. A small reminder that you are held by something steady within yourself. Chapter 12. Closing message. Perhaps a thread from this episode will stay with you for a while. Perhaps it will remind you that connection is possible, even when it feels delicate. May this thread hold you, guide you, and move with you through your day.